Hi. Institutions, which include schools, colleges, universities, healthcare institutions like hospitals, medical colleges, engineering colleges, science and technology institutions, all these institutions are backbones of any society. Their contribution to the growth and development of any nation or society are immeasurable. They build the intellectual capital, which in turn gets converted into economic and other capital indicators and so on. However, we have not paid, particularly in fast developing nations, adequate attention to build such institutions and promote institution building as an important subject of study, insights, lessons, learnings, experiences. Institution building is a process of not merely creating infrastructure of an institution or a superstructure of an institution, but more importantly, the culture, values, and creating a climate of excellence, positive environment which enthuses both those who provide learning experiences as well as who undergo these learning experiences. So, institution building is not merely what is the kind of architecture, physical infrastructure you have in an institution. They are certainly important, no doubt about it. Physical infrastructure is the starting point of any institution. Of course, nowadays, even without infrastructure, institutions are being built with a lot of online activity, a lot of web-based kind of institutions and so on. I'm not talking of those institutions. I'm talking of institutions that have certain form of physical and real kind of an existence, not merely a web-based, internet-based online existence. These institutions, which are institutions of excellence like the IITs, IIMs, Regional Institutes of Technology, Indian Institute of Science, large number of schools, whether in the law profession, social work profession, management profession, or humanities, and any field that you take, a large number of these institutions, I think, have a lasting impact if they are designed properly in terms of their intellectual climate or academic climate. That is the reason why in the last 3 to 4 decades we started measuring the academic climate or leadership climate or intellectual climate or psychological climate offered by these institutions. In fact, my original study was on medical college environment, how it is perceived by medical students, and its impact on professionalization of medical students. I found some interesting kind of linkages. But irrespective of the linkages, whether there is linkage or not, one has to use it as a matter of faith. If you have a very positive climate, which is energizing, where the teachers are very well educated, learned, and communicative experts in their field, they treat students with respect, and they get all the autonomy and infrastructure that is required, where there is a good library, where there are good support staff, where there are good classrooms, where there is support available for teachers to develop their course material, innovate in the class, and a whole lot of leadership is provided by the administrators, which gives them autonomy and innovative atmosphere and so on, goes a long way in building an institution. In institution building, we normally say all stakeholders are important, but the most important part of an institution building is the leadership of the institution, which normally consists of the director, the principal, the headmaster, or the vice chancellor, different designation that we use. The chief executive officer of any educational institution is the most important part of institution building. His or her styles, his or her philosophy, the way of outlook, behavior, values, and method of governance determines a lot in terms of the kind of intellectual atmosphere that gets created. If the person is very political, manipulative, autocratic, and self driven, then the atmosphere is likely to be vitiated, and most faculty tend to follow very similar kind of values, and they will be chaotic institution. That's why it's very important that heads of institutions are chosen very carefully in terms of their values, setting personal example, their governance styles, and a whole lot of other kind of things. So good leadership provided by that one person or a set of people becomes very important. Next in the line is certainly, I think, various committees that exist in the institution. In schools and colleges, the board of management, I think if they are too excessively profit driven and not concerned with academic excellence, it gets somehow or the other get reflected in the way the institution is run. It's very important the management of the institution, which includes maybe the board of governors, maybe in universities, executive council, syndicate, and so on. I think they are chosen very carefully. Not only that they are chosen, they are periodically helped to look at themselves. This is something on which most institutions goof up. Once you get a executive committee or management committee formed, they keep on doing whatever they prefer as per their choices. Rarely they look at themselves, look at the institution, and then review and renew their own kind of experiences. At some points of time, both Uday Parikh, Ravi Mathai, and myself used to visit schools, study the educational environment that exists by interviewing teachers, by observing various things, by looking at the way the students are given learning experiences, and also interviewing the board of management, the head of the institution, and so on, and make some kind of a feedback presentation to not only the leader of the institution but to the entire committee. And some of the earliest experiences that we have had were in institutions like Lawrence Course an Hour, where we, Uday Parikh, Ravi Mathai, and I went and spent a lot of time trying to experiment and conduct a self-renewal lab for that particular school. After this, we reviewed, for example, when I was at XLRI, Father Abraham, Father Theo Matthias, and myself constituted a committee to go and examine the St. Joseph group of institutions in Bangalore and Mount Carmel group of institutions both in Bangalore and Mysore, and presented our review. When I joined XLRI, I also did some kind of a self-renewal exercises for XLRI in the year 1983. Later, a few years later, I happened to work with the NEPA, National Institute of Educational Planning Administration. Now it is called as NUPA. Reviewed the entire, I spent about 6 months talking to various groups of people and made a presentation about the future directions for NEPA and so on. So these are all what we call as self-renewal exercises. They play a very significant role in rejuvenating an institution and putting it in not always necessarily the right track. They may already be in the right track, but helping them to redefine what more they need to do, what is the scope they have, what opportunities they have, and so on. Most of the time, a most significant stakeholder of an education institution, which is the faculty, they get neglected. It is very important to capture their thoughts, because every faculty member in some of the institutions are considered as a man on mission, a person on mission. The faculty member, if the person is given phenomenal freedom, can do marvelous things in the institution and entirely shape that institution. This is what we discovered in our study of 30 prominent leaders in the HR field, crucible experiences of 30 leaders, which we published as a book called Leaders in the Making. We discovered that the teachers make a hell of a lot of difference, and they can, by giving innovative exercises, build future leaders in their own institutions and so on. So teachers play a very important role, but who really cares about these people and their perceptions? That is where in institutional environment surveys become very important. So periodically you conduct a survey, capture the psychological climate as perceived by the faculty, by the support staff, by the students, and by the leader or the group of leaders, directors, deans, and other people themselves. And if necessary, possible, also some of the alumni, and present these data back to the institution. get them to pick up, get them to be happy about what is good in the institute, and get them to get concerned about what are some of the things that are not that good in the institute. This becomes a self renewal kind of an exercise. Such exercise as self renewal exercises that go a long way in helping the institution to strengthen itself. Also, it is very important to conduct leadership development programs for deans, directors, and so on, or get curricular reviews done by the institution largely using in house committees. Some of the institutions have a committee culture in which a large number of committees work. Committees are excellent mechanisms for periodically looking at the institute, various systems, various processes, and so on. However, sometimes it may go to the other extreme that committees will be used for their own kind of a sake, and at the end of it, most people feel not much work is happening, and so on. So it's very useful to rationalize the committees, look at the committees, and that is where sometimes some kind of a external help becomes very important. Friends, in all this, I'm trying to argue that institution building is a science. We have a lot of experiences in our country. How great institutions like IITs, Indian Institute of Science, some of the IIMs are all built, or the CSIR institutions, ISRO, and such kind of wonderful institutions we have. A lot of R&D institutions exist. We have a lot to learn. These need to be documented, and institution building as a science need to be developed. And in self-renewal mechanisms and how they will help institutions also need to be promoted. It is with this intention I have started this little forum called Forum for Institution Building at this point of time as a LinkedIn kind of a group. But eventually, we will probably have this promoted by a number of people. Kocharya agreed to participate in this. Ahmedabad Management Association agreed to participate in this. I am in discussion with the Academy of HRD if they can promote a forum for institution building and so on. But there is not scope for one institution, but a large number of institutions to join hands because India is growing. Every year we are adding, I think, dozens and dozens of universities. It is very important these universities and educational institutions, colleges and other things are guided and help to make a lasting impact. One student you have impacted is a great addition to the GDP of our country because they keep adding value. The person could be an entrepreneur, the person could be an economic value creator, the person could do a whole lot of things. But imagine hundreds of students go through each college or university every year. Isn't it important that we make these institutions great? They're very clear of the purpose, they're value driven, they're conscious of what is good, what is bad, and they have consistently having renewal mechanisms. I hope with this forum we can promote building institutions across the country and also get experience from across the world and benefit each other. Thank you very much for your patient listening to this long talk on institution building. All the best. Be a great institution builder.